What's up, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Full Circle. I'm your host, as always, Harmon Jr. Please feel free to find me at Harmon Jr. on all your favorite social media. And people, I got something to tell you right now. We just gotta get this out the way. This episode and every episode in the month of February is gonna be about Pokemon. That's the main topic. Pokemon, more Pokemon, other Pokemon stuff. So I have secured Pokemon Masters from across the industry to help me talk about Pokemon all month long. And the first Pokemon Master kicking off this 25th anniversary celebration is the Pokemon Master from Game Informer, known as Brian Shea. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey man, how's it going? It's been a while since I've seen you.
It has been
pandemic
a while.
life aside, what is it? E3 2018 was the last time we met up.
Probably. That sounds about right.
I think we had lunch at that was it the burger place?
It
Get
was
Smash Burger.
You know what? It maybe I'm going with Smash Burger. I like Smash Burger. It's right there in the plaza. What's it called? Microsoft Plaza now or something?
Yeah.
Something like it was the Nokia area. Now it's the Microsoft owns everything on the block area.
But yeah, it's been a while, man. So it's good that we're doing this, catch up a little bit, and talk some Pokemon.
Always. And I know I gave you that awesome, intro, Master Shea. But just in case the people listening have never encountered you or your work, who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So I have been an editor at Game Informer for the last 6 years and change. I run the digital magazine from the editorial side, but I also do just general stuff. Like I have written, I write previews, features, reviews, news pretty much every day, every week, every month. I also wrote our last Pokemon cover story, which was Pokemon Sword and Shield, which actually involved going to Tokyo to visit Game Freak, which was incredible as somebody who has been playing these games for a large chunk of my life.
Man, that is exciting. I actually got to go to Tokyo for TGS 2019. Thank God, because that was like my last big trip before the world shut down. I didn't go to Game Freak, but
I was there like
pretty
2 weeks
amazing.
before TGS.
Really? Oh man, we just missed each other. I ran into Joe and Kim were there, and I ran into them. So that was cool. But
we had a lot of people going back and forth because we also had a Shenmue 3 feature in that issue. So I went over there with Ben Hansen, who was our video producer at the time. And we did the Pokemon thing. Then Ben Hansen stayed there. I left. And then Ben Reeves, who is one of our senior editors, came over to meet up with Yu Suzuki's team to do a Shenmue thing.
Man.
And then a week or two later, Joe and Kim were there.
Man, I must admit, I don't know if it's because, it was like a gamer's fantasy to always go, or anime fantasy but that was probably one of the few places that lived up to every single hype and surpassed all my wildest imaginations and dreams, that city there.
Absolutely. Like I have never fallen in love with like the vibe of a city before like I have with Tokyo. Like I'd never been before. Like that was my first time in Tokyo as well. And just going like I made the most of any moment of downtime that I had. I went to Akihabara, I went to Shinjuku, I went to Meiji Shrine. On like the morning of my flight, I took a train like basically across Tokyo to go to Meiji Shrine and just kind of take in as much as I could. And of course, I was staying in Shibuya, so that was awesome too.
Ooh, nice. So I actually stayed across the street from the Sky Tree, believe it or not, because that's just the cheapest place I found, and actually been real cool. The subway system's so amazing. You can literally stay anywhere and it would not make a difference. But since this is a Pokemon themed episode, I have a quick Pokemon story for you. So okay. I went to the Pokemon Cafe, which was amazing. Like I was probably inches away from tears like halfway through my time there. So I went there, I walked up, and they're like, you need a reservation. I was like, cool. They're like, we're booked for like the next 6 months, something crazy. And I was like, dear God, I'm not surprised, but that is a long time to be booked. But it's Pokemon, hey. So one of the employees there told me, they're like, here, we have this little line that you can wait in for cancellations. And nobody was in it because the lady was like, the last time we had a cancellation was like 3 months ago. And no one waits in this line because it's suicide, apparently. So I was like, all right, I'll wait in the line. So I wait in the line, and other people come up. They try to get the same thing. They tell them the same spiel. They see me waiting in line. They're like, how long you been here? And I was like, I don't know, like 20 minutes. And they're like, oh, screw that. So after 48 minutes of waiting in line, The lady comes out and is like, we've had a cancellation. She was like,
Wow.
you are very lucky. I rarely have ever seen this happen. And I was like, cool. She was like, you'll be in the Pikachu zone. Better. I went in there. It was amazing. I literally ordered one of everything off the menu. In case anyone wondering, that's $160 to do that. Money well spent. Do not regret it. Best time of my life. Literally, I could have done nothing else the rest of that trip. It would have been worth it.
Yeah, so that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy being in like this place. You know, I'm a big Persona fan as well. And playing Persona 5, which takes place primarily in Shibuya, but like in different parts of Tokyo, it's really wild to like see all these places brought to life. Because like there are parts in Akihabara, and it's like I actually brought up on my phone like real world locations of Persona, and I went to as many of them as I could. Like the coffee shop and everything that he lives in, and Yongenjaya, which isn't it's way out of there. Like it's not actually called Yongenjaya from what I understand. So you have to take it to like this complete, like it's a long train ride from Shibuya. So I skipped that one, but like I went to like all like the hideout and everything, and it was super cool. But my Pokemon story, aside from like, you know, the Pokemon story itself is I went to Game Freak, which was incredible. But so we get in there, and the two people who were the primary interview subjects were Omori and Masuda. So Omori is like the current director of the series, Shigeru Omori, sorry. And you know, he's like the current director. He was the director of Sword and Shield, and then Junichi Masuda, who was like the composer of the early games. Then he transitioned to be the director of a lot of the games. I think starting with Ruby Sapphire. I could be mistaken there, but like shortly thereafter, if not then. And then I think that starting with Sun and Moon, he moved to like a producer role. So those are like the two main interview subjects. So we're sitting in this giant like Pokemon themed room. Like it's like their conference room. I mean, most of their office is Pokemon themed. Let's be real. But they have on one side, they have like all these random Pokemon collectibles. And then on the other side, on one side, it's all related to the mainline game, right? Like it's like, all right, here's red and green as it is in Japan. Here's you know, gold and silver and ruby sapphire and so on and so forth. And it's just like different like kind of merchandise surrounding the games themselves in these like display cases. And that's really cool. And then there's one part where they have like a million of these little like minifigs, like they're literally like this big, and not a million, but like hundreds and hundreds. And they told us that they think that they have every one, but they're not sure because nobody's actually gone in and checked. But like that was the goal, was to have every Pokemon represented in there, like every like a minifig of every Pokemon. And then on the other side, it was all like the spin-off stuff, like the Pokemon Snaps, the you know, the Pokemon Stadium stuff, the stuff that wasn't necessarily developed by Game Freak, but is related to the Pokemon series. So it's just I've posted these on my Instagram and on the Game Informer Instagram. But anyway, so like I'm just like losing my mind over this. There's like a Pikachu and Eevee guitar that's just sitting in the corner, like this guitar that's over my shoulder, but like it was like with Pikachu and Eevee painted on it. It was really cool. There was like an Alolan Executor just like towering over the window. It was super cool. But anyway, so they bring in Masuda and Omori, and Masuda just like, you know, they had met Ben Hansen before, because I guess he and Kyle Hilliard, who's another former Game Informer editor, had come like 2 years prior to do kind of like a history of the Pokemon series. And Masuda starts asking me questions through a translator, like, oh, like, when did you start playing Pokemon? Like, just trying to like get to know me a little bit. And I was like, oh yeah, red and blue. I got both of them for like, I got blue for Christmas one year along with a Game Boy Color, and then I got red like 2 months later off my allowance or something like that. And you know, and he's like, what's your favorite? And I was like, oh, red and blue is always going to be my favorite just because like nostalgia and everything. And he goes, you know, you're in Kanto right now because like, you know, Kanto's based on Tokyo. And I'm like, that's so awesome. So that was just like, kind of like this is an amazing moment in my life when he's just like talking to me about, you know, just the kind of different, you know, just Pokemon, getting to know me, and like this guy who created all of these songs in the early games and then eventually transitioned to like just kind of overseeing the creation of these games. It was just a really cool moment to kind of get to know him a little bit better. And we went to dinner that night afterwards with the Pokemon team, which was really cool. And yeah, they like decided that like, hey, like we should go check out this restaurant because it's really good. So we all went to this restaurant together, and it was really good. Turns out if you're from Tokyo, some good places to eat in Tokyo.
Oh man, I would have died. Like just straight flatline. Just I would have been like, this is my moment. It's all downhill from here.
It was
Hopefully
funny,
not. But.
Masuda doesn't speak a ton of English, so all of our conversation was through translator. But like I was sitting right across from him during dinner, and I guess he heard me say, because like we got beer to start the night. Like to start the meal, and I drank it, and I was like looking at the menu, and I was like, oh, there's like a whiskey section because I like whiskey, and he caught on to the word whiskey when I said it, and he basically like told through the translator, like, you have to try like these whiskeys. So he was like recommending me whiskeys to try at the like Japanese whiskeys to try, and they were super good. So it was just funny that he like caught on to that, and then I saw him a couple of I guess it was like 3 or 4 weeks later. There was another Pokemon Sword and Shield event, this time in San Francisco. And he remembered that I liked whiskey. He just we had a laugh about that. But yeah, it was it was a really cool trip, and I'm really proud of like how that article turned out.
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie, that is one of the greatest flex stories I've ever heard in my life. Being like, hey, the director of Pokemon, man, we're whiskey, we're whiskey buddies, we get whiskey together. You know what I'm saying? No big deal. Like if I see him, he sees me, we're like, hey, get some whiskey, we sit down, chop it up. No big deal. No big deal.
I don't think he had any whiskey, to be honest. I think he stuck with the beer.
Oh, okay.
I think everybody had at least one beer, and then like they went around for like, as we want another round of beer when like everybody was like done with their first beer, and I was like, I think I'm okay. And then he was like, oh, whiskey, and he pointed at me.
All right, we're drinking buddies. There we go. That's all encompassing.
Yeah, sure. We'll put that in the we'll categorize.
You got that on your business card. Like, how do you know you're legit? I was like, I mean, I'm just saying, man. I'm just. This is the first episode is just gonna be Pokemon stories that none of y'all have had. We're just flexing on y'all. No, we love y'all.
Next up, Blockbuster cards that you had to go to the actual Blockbuster video with your Pokemon Snap save file. You'd put your memory card in it or something. It was some sort of thing where you'd put like into the Blockbuster thing, and you could
I think you put your actual full game in there. I think you just took the actual N64 cartridge and stuck it in there, if I remember correctly.
You get your photos that you took in Pokemon Snap printed out, which was crazy. But we'll get more into Pokemon Snap later. That was like my favorite like, obscure Pokemon thing.
All right, so people, normally I know I introduce the topics, but it's Pokemon. It gets crazy. There's no rules. There's no rules anymore. It's just Pokemon. But what we are talking about today is, in case we are going to be talking about Pokemon Snap. But before that, we will be talking about the best Pokemon collectibles. But before that, we're kicking the show off. Yes, people, the show is starting now. We're kicking the show off with, there's been a leak. Yes, people, the internet is crazy. And I'm surprised because Nintendo's notorious for letting nothing leak out, but I'm pretty sure it's on the McDonald's end. McDonald's is going to have a lot of goodies, supposedly. We don't know, but these leaks seem pretty accurate. They're going to have a lot of goodies for the 25th anniversary. And I mean, so if you go on the internet, avoid this because if you want to be surprised, but if you're listening, oh well. They're gonna be getting off a starter Pokemon for each region Pokemon card and some exclusive, supposedly shinies, along with a sticker book, a framed Pikachu photo, stickers, a mouse pad, and or a poster, and a steel book of some kind. And supposedly, there's still more to come. Now, Brian, what do you think about this? You've seen a lot of Pokemon promotions over the years. Do you think? How do you feel about this? I'm feeling pretty good about this. This looks like multiple trips to McDonald's in my near future.
I've gone to McDonald's very few times in recent years, but like the times that I have gone, it's either because I've gotten a gift card from somebody or they've had a Pokemon promotion going on. And I'm almost always disappointed by like the toy quality. Like I have like a Thundurus and I think it's a Rowlet that I used to have on my my desk at work before the whole pandemic thing started. I've brought a lot of that stuff home now, but I've always been disappointed by like some of the toy quality and like the random nature of like some of the Pokemon they choose, and it's like I always want like the good Pokemon. I feel like I always get kind of the crappy ones, but I kind of like the approach they're taking here, where it seems like it's a different kind of a different approach. Like it's always been toys, as long as I can remember. Like the Happy Meal has always come with toys.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have like my old Sonic Happy Meal toys from like the '90s and everything, and like these look like they're a different approach, and I kind of like it. I don't know if I'd want the sticker book, but like the other stuff looks really cool.
Yeah, like so supposedly according to the leakers information, this is gonna start on February 9th, commemorating the 25th anniversary again. And the one thing I think, okay, so the Pokemon cards are cool because they are what they are. They're not like a downgraded fake card, they're real. And with anything that's card form, people just want them. Especially if some of these are truly going to be exclusive to McDonald's, that's already a win. I can imagine someone going to McDonald's and be like, I want X amount of Happy Meals. I already have these cards. Put these cards in here. I'm not saying I've done that before, but I've done that before.
From what I understand, I've never tried this because I've always been too embarrassed. But like, whenever apparently you can just go there and buy the toys. You don't have to buy the Happy Meal in order to get it. Like I during the last Pokemon thing, I was like, oh man, I went and I got like a chicken nugget Happy Meal, and I got the one toy I didn't want. And somebody on Twitter was like, you can just go there and tell them you want to buy the toys, and like they'll just charge you for the toys, and like they'll give you the ones that you want. And I was like, what? But like I'm always like too ashamed to do that at a McDonald's, and I don't know why.
See, it's not that I'm ashamed.
I think it's so weird in the first place ordering a Happy Meal, and then it's like even weirder to be like, can I just have the toy from the Happy Meal?
I've let me phrase this correctly. I've overcome a lot of my adult shameness over the years. But the reason why I would be scared to do it is a different reason, because I'm always the guy, for example, that goes to a store, knows the rules, informs the employees that this is a thing, and I'm still like, they're like, I don't think you can do that. And then they talk to the manager, and the manager's like, I don't think you can do that either. And I'm like, but it's right there. Just give me that one. No, we you gotta buy a Happy Meal, and we're gonna put one in at random. That's the one you wanted, so we're gonna definitely not grab that one. Here you go. And I'm just like, why are you doing this to me? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I have money. I will give you the money. I will slide you an extra $5. And they're like, I think that's against protocol. And then, I have to leave because it's going to escalate to a point where like they're going to drag me out of there. That has always been my experience.
Guy that's like at McDonald's throwing a fit that I want the Pikachu. I don't want to be the 34-year-old guy soon to be like, I want the Pikachu. Give me the Pikachu. Just give me the Pikachu. I'll leave. I don't want to be that guy at a McDonald's counter.
You have like a skit where like, you pull out a gun. It's like, this is going to end one of two ways. But no, it's really cool because I had a conversation with my friends, especially about Pokemon cards. You know how they re-released the first gen? I don't know what you call it in terms of card printing. I know there's like an exact name, like the first collection.
Well, Evolutions, I think, was the expansion.
Yeah, and they had like the original Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and all that stuff. And I've really been fighting with myself if I should go get it, because I know if I go find my Pokemon book, I probably have all those cards anyway. But
see, I got them. I got them because I didn't have my Pokemon cards from when I was a kid. So I was like, oh, I miss all those cards. And then I just randomly tweeted that out. And then again, somebody on Twitter, very helpful people on Twitter sometimes, they tweeted at me like, oh, you should check out XY Evolutions. It's the new, it's like reprints of the old cards. And I'm like, what? And I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, like you can get like the Charizard, you can get, like you said, like the old Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, Charmander. So I invested heavily in those cards. It started a problem. Like I have I have gotten nearly every expansion since then. Like I have way too many cards. Like you can't see it's just out of the shot, but like I have 2 giant binders full of Pokemon cards now.
See, that's the only thing stopping me because I feel like I'm gonna get them. And I saw someone again on Twitter that was like, "It took me 20 years, but I finally have." Ooh, excuse me. They're like, "It took me 20 years, but I finally have the shiny Charizard." And I was like, "I don't have a shiny Charizard. I know that for a fact." It's also a possibility now. I'm an adult with income, where
Within reach.
yeah, I'm just like, but I'm scared. I'm gonna do it, and like I won't have a shiny Charizard, and then I'm like, "Oh, I'll buy the next one." And I'll buy the next one. And then next thing you know, I'm just like, where did my money go? Where is it? I should have money and I don't. So I'm really scared. But I will get all the ones from McDonald's. I will do that because I'm going to wrongly assume that I'll be rich one day because I don't have my Burger King cards no more. And those are worth like $200. I wouldn't have sold it at $200, but it would just been nice to know that I have a piece of gold-plated plastic that's worth some money.
I know.
Which
I'm bummed I don't have that one either. I had it at one point, just like I had like 4 Charizards from the original run that are now worth like hundreds of dollars as well. But I was like, oh, Pokemon's kind of dying down, like because like the initial like fever pitch had like reached its peak, and it was starting to come down a little bit to like just the normal level of fervor. So it seemed like in my dumb kid mind that like, all right, well, this fad is over. It surely won't be still running 25, 30 years later, 25 years later. Yeah, so I thought it was done for. So I got rid of all my Pokemon cards, like, you know, by before the bottom fell out on it. And how much is a holographic Charizard? Looks like you're Googling it right now.
you know, you got me. You got me. I was gonna see what is the realistic price for one because there's always a guy on eBay that's like, I'm selling it for $500, and it's like, no man, no one's buying.
Yeah, what are what has been sold for is what you want.
Yeah, I'm looking. What have we sold for? Ooh, man, there's so many levels to this. There's like apparently like holographic Japanese only prints, and I'm just like, oh man. So our first edition holographic Charizard from the original run, according to TCG Player, and Supreme Condition, can net you about a good $400 it seems.
How about this? Beckett.com. So, it's a collectibles outlet.
Uh-huh.
1999 Pokemon First Edition Charizard Holo sells for over $55,000.
Whew.
It was rated at 10 in like the perfection. It says the only thing holding it back from black label status is a 9.5 for centering. When was this article written? Because doesn't have a date, it looks like, but there's a comment. Oh, so it was the comment was on Christmas of last year, so this must be a fairly recent article.
Oh my. Wait a minute. That $400 is probably inaccurate because I did not look. This is a damaged holo, which I'm just like, there's no way in heck I'm paying $400 for that. But what? Okay, here we go. Good condition, $999. You must be out of your mind.
Yeah, so I got I actually did pull the updated version of the Charizard Holo in the XY Evolution pack. Mm-hmm. It's the same art, same holographic, but the damage is actually more because the way that the trading card game has evolved is, the original run of cards is just completely ineffectual now because the new cards are so much more powerful. So they actually updated some of the moves. I believe the new one does 120 damage, whereas originally it did 100 damage for Fire Spin. But sorry, I'm typing it now. No, it does 200 damage. It doubled the damage.
You know what's the weird thing about Pokemon cards? We at some point we all thought we would be rich, and somehow only got rid of cards that would have made that true.
Exactly.
Like we all have the cards that are worth like $2, but we all remember like it's like, oh yeah, it's like like how Kadabra couldn't be printed no more, and it's like, oh yeah, I used to have like 1,000 of those Kadabras. Wait, what? They don't print those no more because of a lawsuit worth thousands of dollars.
Derailing us.
And you flip, and it's like, oh look, here's one. Oh, that one's ripped. Here's one. Oh, I gave that to little Jimmy. Here's one. It's supposed to be here. It's not here. It's like, how?
Oh my god. Yeah, I gave so many cards to like younger neighbors. Like, oh, this little kid's starting his collection. I'll just, here's 500 Pokemon cards. I don't want them anymore. So back in like 1998 or I guess 2000 or whenever the cards were at their peak. It's like, God, I'm an idiot. I'm a fool.
So I refuse to give away video games now because when I was younger, I had a younger cousin. My mom was like, oh, you need to learn how to share. You should give some of the games you don't play to him or whatever and blah, blah, blah. And I somehow gave him I should have gave him the games that, like, I gave him games I wasn't playing no more. Like Mr. Mosquito, which apparently you cannot find that game anymore, and it sells for ridiculous money. Like, I saw a copy of Mr. Mosquito for PS2, not with case, go for like $200. So I'm just like, without case? I had a case. And like, I went to go find these games at one point, and he was like, I don't know where they're at. They're probably like, rotting in a dumpster. And there was another game that my Klonoa 1 and 2, he had those two. And I don't even know why I gave him two. One, I can understand. Two, I think my mom went through my stuff because I wouldn't have gave that up. And I just remember being so infuriated as I got older, and I was like, never again. I don't care if it's like... It's going to have to be like a Make-A-Wish Foundation for me to give up another game, basically, is what I'm saying.
See, the problem now is that most of my games are digital at this point. So, I don't know. It's a weird thing because I used to be so all about owning like physical stuff, whether it was movies or games. And now I am so digital. I'm so like in the digital ecosystem for all of it. And I also used to be all about owning my music, whether it was digital. Like, I actually liked having my music digital because I could just throw it on an iPod and carry it around, And now, like, I finally gave in to subscribing to Apple Music. I finally, because, like, I was running the numbers, and I'm like, it's like $120 or something like that for a year of Apple Music. And I'm spending, like, $40 a month on albums at this point. So it's like I need to just make a compromise here and just pay a subscription fee, and I can download whatever I want for that subscription fee, and I'll cut my music expenses probably in a quarter. So that was one thing. And then like it just slowly became more convenient for me to have these things digitally, especially like for a portable system. That was my first thing with digital gaming was if it was a portable system like a Vita or a 3DS, it was so worth it to have digital versions of that. So I didn't have to throw like 20 game cartridges in my bag when I was getting on a flight. I just brought my 3DS and the charging cable, and that I had all my games with me. And like, if I had a physical game I might want to play, I just kept that in the little slot 100% of the time. And it's like, all right, well, I think I have like Pokemon X in my 3DS still to this day because I just always had that just in case I wanted to play it. It was like the only physical game that I had that like I might want to revisit.
Oh man, I hear you. I haven't made the jump yet. I made the jump last year slightly because of COVID actually, because Final Fantasy VII for whatever reason, I guess it released right when things were happening. So like a lot of the stores in Houston, because big major city, they sold out. Like they were literally like, if you didn't pre-order this game, like our shipping of just the regular units is like, I remember Best Buy told me like, oh, we'll have it, but like in like another 3 weeks after release date because of supply chain and all that stuff. And then I went to GameStop and they were just like, we didn't even have enough to give to our pre-orders. And I was like, well, I'm not waiting 3 weeks to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, so I was like, I guess I'll download it. And then Persona 5 Royal was like, it's 50% off on PlayStation. I was like, well, 50% off is hard to argue against.
See, that was always the thing for me, was that like you could get better deals in stores at a certain point. Then Microsoft and Sony and to an extent Nintendo started catching on to that, and they've had some amazing deals in their digital storefronts. And that's where it gets me, because like I don't have to have that like intention of going to a store like with the idea of buying a game. You know, it's like I can just turn on my TV and be like, I wanted to play that game at one point. It's 50% off. Yeah, sure, impulse buy. And then like I'll never play it because it just sits on my hard drive for like years, and then eventually I need to clear off hard drive space and I delete it.
You know, that was actually the reason why I never bought digitally. I had 2 games that I bought and I never played because I forgot they were there.
So that's enough to scar you for life.
Enough to scar me, because part of me is also like, man, I don't want to have to go like buy new hard drive space like how I did on my PS4.
But now you have to install the physical games anyway.
Yeah, so now I'm just, I don't know. Let me be old.
See, that's the thing is, and with movies, I was like, you know what? I love like bringing my iPad with me on flights. I can like I have my Kindle there. I have I have some movies there. So I started doing like digital stuff for movies, but I really like having series that I love like on a shelf. So I have the entire MCU on my shelf. I have all of the Star Wars movies on my shelf. I have all the John Wick movies on my shelf. So stuff like that I like owning physically. But 95% of movies that like I want to buy or rent or whatever, it's going to be through like Amazon, just digital downloads.
Oh no, that definitely makes sense, because I think I'm now at the point where, you know, I don't think I will continue to buy every game physically except games I legit love or am looking forward to. And to offset that cost, well, not offset, but I now am more okay with buying special editions, because since I've started buying more and more games digitally, and more big games keep being digitally only, like, you know, your Ori and your Hades, it's like, yeah, I mean, Ori, you know, comes out with like a physical copy, like, you know, maybe down the line, but again, you know, you're not going to wait 3 months for that.
It's usually long, 3 months too. Usually those, like, I really love the stuff that like Limited Run Games does. They do some really cool physical editions, but it's like, at a certain point, like I mentioned, I'm in my 30s. I had to just make the call that like, all right, I own enough like collectible stuff. Like I have gone through my my phase of collectibles. Like I still have a ton of stuff, but it's like at a certain point I need to not have more stuff because it's becoming too much. But I had a problem like mid-20s where I was just going crazy for like collector's editions, like especially like steelbooks. Like I loved having steelbook versions of like some of my favorite games on the shelf. Like I have the entire Mass Effect trilogy collector's edition steelbooks, which the Mass Effect 1 steelbook is actually really expensive now. Like if you start searching like how much like the Mass Effect 1, I'm gonna look it up now. And this is totally like not on the topic of Pokemon.
It's all, you know, we're gonna bring it back, and I know how.
Okay. Well, we'll see what your Mass Effect 1 steelbook on eBay. Oh, so collector's edition buy it now price on Amazon is $234. There's another one that has 152. Yeah, it looks like it's somewhere between 150 and $300 for the Mass Effect Collector's Edition.
You know, speaking of Mass Effect, I'm so happy we're getting the remake trilogy because I've never played any of those games.
Oh, man, you need to.
I know. See, I always tell people, they're like, why? I'm like, because they came out during my college years. It just wasn't going to happen. Like, it just...
Mass Effect 1 came out while I was in college, and Mass Effect 2 was the year after I graduated college. So, like, that was, like, my introduction.
You know, I'd had a real talk with myself because I'd already had, like, at that point, maybe, like, 2 or 3 games that, like, I could barely play. And I was like, oh, man, Mass Effect is a huge RPG. There's no way with the stuff I still haven't even been able to play because I'm trying to be a responsible young adult. So it got pushed back into one of those, like, I'll play it when I have time. But then, I graduated, other stuff happened, the games are huge. And I remember 3 was coming out, and I was like, all right, I'm going to catch up. And I started playing 1. And I made it maybe a quarter because I'm that type of guy that likes to do a little bit of everything. And I'm like, oh, let me go back to the main mission. I'm like, oh, I have not advanced the story at all in 20 hours. How did I do this? I'm that type of guy.
Yeah, I'm really excited to revisit those games. I'm interested to see what they bring to the table, the remasters.
All right, so you're talking about too much physical stuff, and that costs way too much money. So I sent you some links because I'm not a skater, but Bear Walker has made some pretty fancy Pokemon skateboards and a special. Ooh, see, look, there's the ooh.
Yes. I clicked into the Mew one because, like, Mew, I really like Mew. Clicked into the Mew one, $250, and it's sold out.
Yes. So they made a special Pikachu one specifically for the 25th anniversary, also $250. I convinced myself I was gonna buy it. I don't even skate. I would, like, fall and break something, but I was like, screw it. It's the special edition one. That's all they had to say. I'm going to drop the money. Website crash. They sent me an email. It'll be back up tomorrow at 1. Went back at 1. Was sold out. And I was like, you know what? I didn't need to spend that money and have more stuff anyway. But damn, do they look good.
They are. They're really cool. Like, I might be tempted if they had my boy Dragonite on one of them.
Oh, that Rayquaza one's looking pretty nice.
My favorite's Dragonite. What's yours?
Oh, ooh. See, all right. So I have this weird thing that all my favorites are unevolved Pokemon. Like Cyndaquil's one of my top favorites.
Okay.
Just because I don't know. That's my boy right there. He's so little mousy on fire. And then but who's kind of usurping him right now is Raboot. Like, I don't know. Like, wow. Raboot has that vibe that's just like, a
middle one.
Yeah,
the middle ones have always been my least favorite. The middle evolutions of the starters, like Squirtle's cool, Blastoise rules, Wartortle's just like an awkward little guy.
He looks old. That's always confused me when I was younger. Like, why does he look old?
Thing with like Charmander's cute and awesome. Charizard, just a total badass. Alien, I don't know, take it or leave it.
But yeah.
Ivysaur is like one of the most forgettable Pokemon ever. But like Bulbasaur is awesome and Venusaur is awesome. That's kind of how I've existed my entire life. Is like the middle Pokemon is like the forgettable one.
I mean, that is true for the most part. I will not argue that.
But you got Raboot.
Yeah, I saw him.
Raboot.
I always have this thing. The lexicon of Pokemon is so confusing. Like, you'll meet people that's like for example, Gardevoir, and some people like Gradivore, and I'm like, I don't know which one is really correct. Yeah.
I thought it was Gardevoir.
See, exactly. That's I don't like. I'll go to like different Pokemon related things, and I'll hear. But I always find it hilarious when people will unanimously agree on like the hardest pronunciation of a name. Like, people will be like, I'm trying to think of a Pokemon name that's probably just out there, but everyone says it the same still. But yeah, Gardevoir.
On how the anime pronounced it.
Oh,
like for the longest time, I thought it was Arcanine, but then they were like, "No, it's Arcanine," and I'm like, "Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I was wrong."
You know what's funny? The original Pokemon Snap. I mean, the original Pokemon Stadium says Arcanine, and that always confused me.
So that's the most heartbreaking moment of my Pokemon existence or my Pokemon life. Is I used to collect the cards hardcore, and when I was a little kid, and I remember I was on the way home with my dad from a baseball game, and I had all my Pokemon cards with me for some reason, because of course I would. And we went to the mall because there was like a Pokemon like event happening there, and there was just like probably like 40 kids just sitting in the middle of the mall, like hanging out, showing each other Pokemon cards and stuff like that. It was all kids with Pokemon cards. So I walk in my baseball uniform and like my stack of Pokemon cards, and I had the Japanese Blaine's Arcanine, which was like a pretty sought after card. This was before it was available in the US. I think this was like the second or third run of cards. Blaine's Arcanine. And it did like more damage than any other card at that point. And this kid stole it from me when I wasn't looking. And like my dad and I ran all over the mall trying to like find the kid, but like he pieced out so hard after that. Like they were not anywhere in that mall.
I don't condone violence, but that is definitely like hey bro, I just want my card back. And,
we were totally gonna corner him and be like, he stole my card. Give it back.
Kudos to Mr. Shea. That's such a pro dad move. There's some parents that would have been like, whatever, don't worry about it. But to legit run around like, hey, shout out to your dad.
we were looking for that kid. I remember what he looked like. I still do. I'm gonna find him one of these days.
Well, you're like, hey, remember me?
But it won't be bad though, because like he won't be a kid anymore. It's not like he stopped aging, so it's not like I'm gonna be like beating up a kid as a 35 or 34-year-old guy. Jeez, I can't remember how old I am. I'm gonna, it'll be a fellow 30-year-old guy. So
be like, hey, we're both adults here.
Adults, like adults, which is arguing on the internet and never meeting up.
Exactly. You're gonna
and you stole my Arcanine 20 years ago. I remember you, and there's probably not a thing I can do about it. There's not a thing I can do to prove it, but I'm still sad about it.
Hey, I would be too. I completely. I had a neighborhood kid steal my Game Boy Color edition of like Super. It was a Mario game with like, I think like the Nintendo games in it or something. I don't know. Like Super Mario All-Stars, I think was the Game Boy Color game. I don't know. Point is, so this is what happened. He was like, "Oh, Cassie, I wanted to pull this."
Super Mario Brothers Deluxe.
There we go. There it is. And he was like,
Super Nintendo.
Yeah. So he pops it in or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, cool." And then like just hopped on his bike and rode off with the game in his Game Boy.
What?
Yeah. And the horrible part was I didn't even realize it till it was way too late.
No.
So like he was playing it, we're chatting it up. And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go home real quick. I'll be right back." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then like, I see him right off and it's like, do. Ah, damn.
So wait, you knew the kid though, right?
Like It was one of those things like I didn't know where he lived. It was just like neighborhood kid, would see him on the street. So like as long as he never like
where like we all went to each other's houses. So like if any kid stole anything from me, I could just like go knock on his door and tell his mom. But like the problem with mine was like a complete stranger at like a Pokemon event in a mall. So it was like, and it wasn't even like a mall I lived by. Like it was just I was playing in a baseball league and like, a couple of towns over, we had a game. So on the way home, this Pokemon thing. So it wasn't even like, oh, I've seen that kid around school. It's like, no, this kid was like in a different district.
And so the horrible thing was like, and this was like a classic case of he wasn't from our street. So like I put out, the word to my regular street friends, like, hey, this kid's like, yeah, that kid, he's rolled by here before. It's like, if you see him. But it's like I'm assuming he was smart enough to never come back to, he could have lived like
around these parts no more.
Yeah. I just remember being so devastated. But wait, yeah, cool Pokemon stuff. Like you said, the Blockbuster machine, which I looked it up. You put your actual cartridge in the machine.
So how much do those cards go for? I know this just turned into like eBaying with Brian this episode, but like Blockbuster Pokemon Snap card. Do those, because I have the Pikachu one still. And hold on. Amazon has some sellers. Oh, it looks like one of them is for sale for $30. So it's not like a crazy collectible or anything like that, but I still have mine.
They're selling the whole machine or just the
No, just the card, the little card.
Oh, just a little card. Oh, okay.
It's funny because Kyle Hilliard, the aforementioned former associate editor of Game Informer, he brought his kid in one time, and like she likes Pokemon, and I was like explaining what the Pokemon Snap card was, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you would go to this place called Blockbuster because, like, kids now have no concept of what Blockbuster is. So you go to this place called Blockbuster. Oh, it's the store where you rented games. Oh, renting is when you borrow a game, you pay for it. And it's just like there were so many like pockets of information to like explain different things to. And it's like by the time I got to like what the card actually did, she had no interest whatsoever, and I was like, yeah, I tried. Sorry, Kyle. I bored your kid.
I think I might actually have one of my cards in horrible condition somewhere. I'm trying to find someone selling the machine because apparently they still exist and people have them, but no one seems to be.
How many thousands of Blockbuster videos were there? And I think they all had one at that point, right?
Yeah. I think no one's selling them though, because everywhere I go, everyone's just like, hey, look at it. It's in my house. Haha. Oh, dear God. So
you found one?
I found one on Facebook shopping in Bellingham, Washington.
Ooh.
He is asking for $12,345.
How do you come up with that number?
I don't know.
12,000 or 13,000, but like, I mean, that's already high, but like, why so specific? Like, does he have like a loan that he has to pay off?
I know. I was thinking that. What is it? It says very rare Blockbuster Nintendo 64 Pokemon Snap Station. This was only given out at Blockbuster Video. Blah 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 blah. Condition very good. This was 2 years ago.
Does it still work?
Yeah, it's still he has videos of it working, doing its thing. I'm like, I was like, if you take away a digit from that and it feels like $1,234.
Maybe you think about it. It'd be
like that would be within the realm of negotiation. Like, hey, I got $1,000 in cash right now, but 12,000. I'm like, bro, let's just be here's 12,000. Let's just make this an even number.
God, yeah, that's where it's just like one of those things, like, because if I was dead set on getting one of those and I found that guy and it was like, all right, I finally found one, $12,345, that would be one of those things that would, like, in my mind, I would just be like, I guess I'm never owning one of those. Like, the dream is dead. Like, if it was like you said, if it was $1,235, I would be like, all right, this is conceivable. This is something that, like, if I really like budgeted for a while and like I could make this dream a reality. But once you get over like 1,000 or 2, it's like, nope, this is clearly never happening in my life.
Oh, okay. See, like, here's now I'm looking. This one's already been sold, but some guy from a year ago. So he's at some random con. I don't know what it is. You can see people walk around in booths.
Yeah.
And he bought it for $700.
Okay,
I could have done that.
There we go. That's more realistic.
Yeah. That would have been like a dang. This is gonna be a horrible and adult purchase, and I can't spend any entertainment money until like next month.
Also, there's really no function to it because what are you gonna do with this thing? Like, aside from just putting it next to your PC. Like, what do you do with that? Pokemon Snap, it's not like there's still like an active community aside from new Pokemon Snap, and it's not like it's going to work with new Pokemon Snap. I would imagine that they're not going to encourage you to go to Blockbuster Video to print out your Pokemon snapshots.
All right, so here's my issue. I think some of these machines will actually print out for you, but my thing is once it runs out of the ink paper or whatever, I'm like, I don't know if this is a special type. I assume it's going to be a type you can't even buy anymore.
Paper. Like, there's so many variables. Something has to be like it's probably just a laser printer or like an inkjet printer or something like that inside of it. But you probably have to have a special type of paper. You probably there are so many elements to this that like just reek of waste of money, even if you want one. Like,
okay,
that was $700 while it lasted for like the 12 pictures I could print before I needed to replace the game.
So someone's opening it up and the components don't look too. Oh, okay. Wow. So there's a literal 64 inside. You literally are just plugging, when you put your game in there, you're just plugging it into an actual 64 rigged in the machine. connected to the tube. Well, this is insane. I thought something super serious was going on in here.
So you get a free Nintendo 64 on top of the
yes, you get a
$700
free Nintendo 64, and then the rest of it's like the printer and the little doodads.
But that's the other thing is like even if it's just a regular printer, a printer from 2001 or whenever that game came out is going to be tough to. It's going to be tough to find components to replace parts of a 2001 printer.
Yeah. Also, the tube TV that's inside of it. So first of all, this thing's like 2,000 pounds probably.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what happens if like the TV goes bad? I gotta go find like another 19-inch TV.
I bet you could find a computer monitor to replace, like to put it there. But this is a rabbit hole I did not anticipate going down today.
And this is the part where you explain to your future child, look, this is from my childhood and I wanted it, okay?
And again, as you try to explain all the different nuances of why this thing is cool, their eyes are just glossing over and getting less and less interested with every single word as you say things like rental and kiosk and Nintendo 64, and the kids have no idea what you're talking about.
And they're going to be like, why didn't you just, send it over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to like this.
Yeah, why didn't you just post it on Instagram instead of printing it out? Be like, well, Instagram wasn't invented for another 15 years.
And then, let's just say you actually get all the components together and show them how it works. And then you print out the stickers and they're just like, this is it. We went on a $2,000 venture for this, for this one sticker of your so-so picture of a Lapras.
And it's like not even like good graphics anymore. Like it was like amazing graphics at the time, but now it's like, all right, this polygonal representation of Lapras is now it's now able. What are we gonna do with this? We're gonna hang it on the wall like a childhood art project? Like no, we're just gonna probably put it in a drawer and never think of it again. Wow, great purchase, Dad.
Wow, you're really showing me how great the '90s were. Best decade ever. Oh, so since we're on Pokemon Snap, we're finally getting a new one that's titled New Pokemon Snap because people at the Nintendo just don't like trying to name things cool. I don't.
New Super Mario Brothers U and New Super Mario Brothers Wii and New Super Mario Brothers 2. That's a very successful game franchise for them. I see where they're coming from.
The new 3DS sold extremely well.
Even though didn't it not come with a charging cable?
Yeah, and people were upset, but I was like, okay, no, Nintendo has me pinned here because I have a regular DS, a DS Lite, a DSi. Yeah, you're right. I have multiple chargers. You got me there.
I recently bought AirPod Pros because they were on sale on Black Friday, and so I bought a pair of AirPod Pros because my AirPods had broken, and it didn't come with a charging cable. And it doesn't use like the regular, like the iPhone charging cable. It didn't use like this. It uses like the new Lightning or the USB-C. So I was like, all right, well, I have to get a USB-C charging cable now. And then I realized you could also use wireless charging. It's like, this is a new thing for Apple, like to not have if it just used like the regular iPhone charger, I'd be fine with it. But it uses USB-C, which needs a completely different power converter as well. Like it came with a charging cable, I believe, but it didn't come with like the block. I had to buy like a thing, but then I realized it uses wireless charging, which I had a wireless charger, thankfully. But like I was like, really? I have to like order a whole new thing on top of like the extremely expensive AirPods.
You're like, was it on sale or is it just the price without the charging?
Yeah, that's what it was. God, I didn't read the fine print.
Oh man, but
yeah, new Pokemon Snap.
New Pokemon Snap, and I don't know the word "new" on a game title always confuses me. Just side tangent because I'm like, there'll eventually be another one, right? And what do we do then?
New Pokemon Snap 2. I mean, we've seen what they've done with New Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, okay, cool.
New Super Mario Brothers Wii, New Super Mario Brothers U, New Super Mario Brothers 2.
New Super Mario Brothers with Mario crossed out in the word Luigi.
Oh yeah, New Super Mario or New Super Luigi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but like it is weird that like New Super Mario Brothers U came to Switch and they just called it New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. Like it has nothing to do with the Wii U anymore. But We kept the weird name. Like when Zombie U went to PlayStation and Xbox, it was just called Zombie. I don't understand why they kept the U, but whatever. I guess that's just the name of the game, so they kept it. You know what? I'm excited for new Pokemon Snap. I think that that's a game that I saved up money for as a child to get Pokemon Snap, and it took every ounce of self-control to not buy like that special Pikachu N64, which is now again worth a lot of money. Like anything Pokemon from the 90s is just you're filthy rich if you still have it and you want to sell it. But with Pokemon Snap, like I thought that was the coolest thing ever because I was super into the anime at that point, and I was just like, these Pokemon look like the Pokemon in the anime. They behave like the Pokemon in the anime. There's like Easter eggs to like different things that happen in the anime, and there's like, you know, it felt like I was in like that world. The same reason I like Pokemon Stadium, but didn't they all make like the same noises in Pokemon Snap as they did in the anime? Where a Stadium, it was still the digitized like roars.
Yeah, and I
Cries.
believe, so Pokemon Stadium for sure had the digitized roars, and then I think Pokemon Snap was more akin to them saying their names or something, or if not their names, like a something like
not the digitized cries.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really loved that. And it was so exciting for me, and like I knew it was something different from like the normal Pokemon game, but like it felt like, all right, this is finally like we're going towards having a Pokemon game on consoles. It's not going to be on Game Boy anymore. Like, because Game Boy now feels super antiquated, just like the graphics and everything. But like back then, it was still like just such a tiny experience. And I wanted to have the world be like so immersive like it is in the anime. I wanted to have it be that way in the video game. So like something like Pokemon Stadium or something like Pokemon Snap was exactly what I was looking for. I wanted to have that world brought to life in the way that the anime kind of brought it to life. And I was like, all right, we have Pokemon Stadium where you can battle Pokemon on game consoles. We have Pokemon Snap where you can like go around and exist in this world and take pictures. We are so close to having like a console RPG on consoles. And yeah, we had the GameCube Gale of Darkness. But it's crazy to me that it still took another 20 years before we got a mainline RPG on consoles, or like I guess like 18 years if you want to count Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee. But I think like it's safe to say that the first all new Pokemon RPG was on Switch with Sword and Shield, like as far as mainline games are concerned. Like, yeah, I think that it's if you told me it would be another 2 decades pretty much before we would get to where I was hoping we were going to be within a couple of years as a kid, like I would have lost my mind. So long story short, I got completely lost in Pokemon Snap as a kid, and I'm so excited to kind of relive that. Because going back and playing it holds up better than a lot of N64 games do today. But I've tried to replay it recently, and it's like, all right, some of like the camera controls are a little weird, especially using just the single joystick. But I think that overall, it's a cool concept. They obviously have a lot of creative characters to pull from, more so now than they did back then. So yeah, I think that it's the right time to bring it back. I think it's one of the spin-offs that people remember very fondly. And, it's the 25th anniversary of the franchise, so why not?
Yes to all of that. Because one of my favorite things to say about Nintendo is, if Nintendo wanted to never make a new game and just gave us all the stuff we keep asking for, they'll probably be rich until the end of time. They're like, well, you just want... You just want HD versions of every game ever made, remastered, cool. And I'll be like, yes, money, all of it.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Switch, like it has so many games from the past. Like, even if you take out the Wii U games that they're just pretty much re-releasing on Switch because everybody missed them the first time around because the Wii U was so unpopular, and like they're to the Wii U's credit, it had so many really good games. Like, I am so excited for Super Mario 3D World to come to Switch because that is a legitimately amazing Mario game. And I think so many people missed out on it. So like when you talk about the best 3D Mario games, people don't bring that up because it was so underplayed back then. I'm hoping it finds the audience that it deserves on Switch because, you know, the Switch is an amazing system that is rightfully very popular. So I'm excited for that to come out and hopefully get the recognition it deserves as one of the better 3D Mario games. But as far as, you know, the true retro stuff, like look at one of the main selling points, or the main selling point aside from being able to play online for the Nintendo Switch Online service, is look at all these NES and SNES games you get for no additional charge.
Oh man,
that's incredible to me. Like at first I hated that because like I said, like I was totally in the camp of I want to own my games. I want to have these games, you know, I want to be able to make sure that like if Nintendo Switch Online shuts down like 7 years from now, I can still access my copy of A Link to the Past on the go. But it's like, you know what? I kind of dig not having to pay $15 for these games all over again individually. It's like, no, I get to just have them for the $20 a year I'm already paying.
Man, I agree most definitely. And, you know, I don't know if I can add too much to what you said about Pokemon Snap because I was just like, preach, sir, preach. But as the thing I love most about this is what I'm really saying, besides it looking cool, and you know, I've never wanted the Switch to be in like 4K more until I saw this trailer. I was like, oh God, but it still looks wonderful. So I was like, okay, this is what the Switch can do, rendering all these Pokemon at once in all these different environments. I already feel like Sword and Shield is an experiment. I was like, if the 9th generation Pokemon game does not look bare minimum like this new Pokemon Snap, we're going to have a problem.
You know, I think that if I had to theorize, and this is not off of any kind of inside information, but if I had to theorize on what the next Pokemon game is going to look like, even if it's still a part of Gen 8, I bet the entire thing is like the wild area. And that's because I think that if you look at how the expansions were, the two expansions, Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra, were structured, they were just one giant wild area, essentially. And I know that kind of presents some challenges with the traditional, let's run over here and challenge the gym leader here, and let's go to this cave and work linearly through it to accomplish this objective. But I think that they saw that players really liked that structure, and I think that that's going to be the direction that the series goes next. I think that we're going to have... I would honestly think that we're going to get another couple of expansions for Sword and Shield instead of a new game in Gen 8. I think that it's just going to keep going if they presuming that the expansion pass sold well. I think they would do an expansion pass 2 and do a couple more expansions. And then I think that the next true mainline game is going to be primarily wild area with some gyms mixed in. So it's almost like the open world Pokemon game that people want. I think that's the direction that the series is headed based purely off of how those expansions came out. I think that was a reaction to how players reacted to the wild area in general. You know, I think that's Game Freak recognizing that players really like the structure of the wild area. And then they're like, well, let's see how we can create these giant wild areas that also have objectives mixed in. And I think that's why that the expansions were made that way. And I think that's kind of hinting at the direction it's going next, which I don't know how I feel about it, because I like the linearity of the world, the intentional linearity of the design of the worlds. But the wild area is the ultimate kind of fantasy of the longtime Pokemon player, of you can just run anywhere. You can catch all these different Pokemon in different biomes. It would be interesting to see if they can pull it off in a way that's still compelling to the longtime players. Because that's the thing that I think that the Pokemon developers, whether it's Game Freak or any other company that tackles any kind of Pokemon property, they're kind of handcuffed by this notion of wanting to keep the formula intact to a degree while also innovating, which is always a challenge, because if you look at something like Breath of the Wild, it flipped the Zelda series so much on its head, but it also consistently gave nods to the past of different Zelda games. And I think that was really important to kind of, not, I guess pun intended here, have that link to the past while also forging ahead in a kind of a new era of Zelda. And I think I think Breath of the Wild sequel is gonna be very telling for what the future of that franchise is going to be. That said, I think that the Pokemon series has this weird handcuffing where it's like we have to keep faithful to the people who want to play a traditional Pokemon game while also trying all these new things. So that's why you see a lot of the innovations tend to be more iterative than innovative. The wild area is actually one of the more innovative things that the series has done in a while. Although when you think about it, it's really just the Safari Zone blown out into a giant area with no time limit, no like special Pokeballs to catch. It's just kind of that concept expanded to what a console can deliver and not tied to a very specific thing, like a very specific location and like having to pay to get in and all those weird things. So I guess this is just a roundabout way of saying that I think that the way that we can, I think that the next expansions, if they do any more, or the ninth gen, which I think we're a ways off. I think we were going to get a remake before we get a new game. I think that with Let's Go being so popular, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee being so popular, I think we're going to get probably a remake of something, whether that is a Let's Go game based in Johto for Gen 2, or if we're going to get, like, I think there was a leak or like a rumored leak that we're going to get a Gen 4 remake, which I'd be all on board. So I think Gen 4 is actually the least playable right now because like there's those weird like long load times even in Platinum, which I think is like the or whatever it was Diamond and
Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum.
Yeah, Platinum. Platinum was the one that was like the year later they released like the ultimate version of it. Even that has some weird like it takes a long time to save, a long time to load. I would love to see that because like that's kind of the one where I haven't gone through and played all the way through because it felt kind of it was kind of cumbersome to play through it. So I would love a remake of that, but I'm also like I think that Gold and Silver happen to be the best Pokemon games, even though my favorites are Red and Blue because of just nostalgia purposes. But I think Gold and Silver are the best Pokemon games. So I would love a modern remake of those. Like even though Heart Gold and Soul Silver are incredible, I just replayed those not too long ago, and they're clearly amazing. But to have those on Switch, like a new version of Heart Gold, Soul Silver, would be unbelievable.
Oh, most definitely. If you just put like, if I was thinking about this, what was one of the big surprises for this year? They were like, we're adding, Gold and Silver, Red and Blue to the Switch, but the trailer keeps going, and then it just basically says, it does like a smash announcement. They're all on Switch. Could you imagine, like, literally Gen 1 through 8 on Switch? Like,
well, they did that essentially with the 20th anniversary, if I recall, right? Like where they did a thing where like they released Red, Blue, and Yellow on game or 3DS, right?
Yeah, and then I think Gold and Silver they also released in the store. You could buy those, and then theoretically, the rest were on Game Boy, so they were all theoretically on the 3DS.
The problem with bringing forward a lot of the games that were on DS, 3DS, and Wii U is the second screen. That's been a problem, I think, for a lot of the stuff they've wanted to bring forward. And same thing for the Wii, like motion controls. You can do motion controls on the Switch, but like most people, or at least most people either play it in handheld mode where the Joy-Cons are attached to the Switch itself, or they use the Pro controller. I feel like I don't know. I like using the Joy-Cons like detached from the grip. Actually, like I like just kind of laying back and like holding a Joy-Con in each hand and like not holding it like a traditional controller. Just
I love playing like this. This is, I'm not joking. This is my optimal way to play. For those listening, I have one hand above my head and like my other hand resting on my thigh.
But like that's the thing is like I've asked Nintendo, like high-ranking Nintendo people, like I asked Eiji Aonuma, who is the kind of like the overseer of the Zelda franchise currently, is it possible to do like a Skyward Sword remaster without motion controls? And he basically laughed and was like, that's pretty much impossible.
Really? I never would have guessed.
I mean, this was 2 years ago. This was at E3 2019.
Ah.
And he was like, yeah, like, I don't know, that seems pretty impossible to me. But I mean, who knows? Nintendo has proven time and time again they know how to overcome obstacles. But the question is whether or not those obstacles are worth overcoming to them. Like, like kind of like everybody was like really wanting like an HD remake of Mario 64 for the anniversary, and then they released Super Mario 3D All Stars, which is just like, all right, we up-res the textures, but this is just the exact same game that you played on N64. Same thing with Sunshine. Like, all right, we removed the inverted controls, but it's the same game you played on GameCube. And Galaxy is the same way. You still have to use some motion controls, but I don't know. It's just it seems like it would require a lot of work to change Skyward Sword, even if they wanted to, and that's seems like a whole can of worms that would be very surprised if we ever saw that based on his reaction when I asked him that. Like he was laughing as he did.
Note to self, go find my Skyward Sword copy and like encase it in gold or something. But to your point about the Pokemon games with the 2 screens, if they can do it with The World Ends With You, I feel like they can do it with Pokemon, because I swore that game would be impossible to play without 2 screens, and they found a way.
You know what? I will die on the hill of Wii U was the best way to play a Zelda game. And the reason for that is because you could have your inventory on the second screen. So as I was playing Wind Waker HD, I didn't have to pause the action. I just looked down. I'm like, cool, I want to equip that. I want to equip the bombs. I want to equip the whatever. And it was so much easier. Or like you have a map on the second screen. That was a really helpful thing to not have to like pause the action. You could just look down and see all that stuff. And that made the experience so much more fluid. And that, I mean, obviously Breath of the Wild, I didn't have to worry about that. So I've adapted back to not having that second screen. But that is the one thing that I think that the Wii U did phenomenally. And then, the 3DS did it as well with Link Between Worlds, which I know that I already said that Mario 3D World is one of the most overlooked games in the Mario series because of its audience. But I think Link Between Worlds is an oft overlooked Zelda 2D game. I think that's if it's not the best 2D Zelda game, it's the second best 2D Zelda game.
I will say this: A Link Between Worlds probably, at least I'll say, top 3 Zelda twists I did not see coming in all of Zelda's history.
Okay, I like that. I mean, I like the game a lot. Like if they put that on Switch, that's a day one purchase, easy.
Yeah, if I can't think of his name, but when you find out who Raffaello really was. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention, but I did not see that coming. I was like,
I agree.
And then just to circle back before we close out this week's episode, so what you were saying I thought was really interesting about what you're saying about the wild area and the evolution of that, and what you think Gen 9 is going to. One, if they're gonna make more expansions for the sole purpose of making Gen 9 amazing, I'm all for it. Hey, I'll buy those expansions. I'll play them. I'll give them all the user data they need so Gen 9 can shine, bright as a diamond, as they say. And, the funny thing about Pokemon is, since, it's doing a lot of these innovative things that really aren't innovative in the, RPG space, was Isle of Armor. I remember not liking it. And I was like, I hope they don't make a Pokemon game that's like this where you're just always in the wild area. That's because I feel that Isle of Armor wasn't structured correctly, because the Crown Tundra, especially since it had actual towns, and I remember thinking like, whoa, wait, I'm just in the town. Like, I didn't like exit it. Like, and I'm like, okay, that's weird, because any other RPG, you're like, duh, you just walk into a town and it's still the same engine, the same everything. And you walk out into the tundra and how it blends with the other environments and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, yes, I'm with this 100%. Like, I don't like how the Isle of Armor did it, but when I went to the Crown Tundra, which felt well more fleshed out with towns, people, the story, the lore.
The quests were defined.
Yeah. Quests, like, yeah, you legit had quests, with the footprints and then, the other things you had to do. And I was like, I had a really great time with the Crown Tundra. Like, I was thoroughly impressed. So if they could...
So I asked the Pokemon Company, sorry to cut you off there.
No
I asked the Pokemon Company in November about the moving away from like the third game release, which I still wouldn't rule out, but like moving away from the third, like the model of like, all right, we released Sword and Shield, and then we release like Pokemon Gun a year later, and has like new content and everything, like Red, Blue, and Yellow, or whatever, like Diamond, Crystal, whatever. Yeah. So they said there was an element of apprehension in moving to a downloadable model, but we were confident that players would enjoy exploring the new environments, uncovering new storylines, and meeting new human characters and Pokemon in both the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra. With past titles, players generally had to collect and raise their Pokemon completely from scratch. So with a DLC, we thought players would enjoy being able to use their favorite Pokemon right out of the gate. So that makes sense. Like that way, like you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to start your adventure from scratch to continue your adventure with like the new stuff. So honestly, like I think that's a really intelligent way to go about it. And like they can make improvements now without having to release a new game. Like if they're like, oh yeah, that section of that game, like we've seen that with Final Fantasy 15, like chapter 13, I think it was, really sucked at launch. And then they completely redid it and just issued a patch to the game, and they just redid the entire game, or redid the entire chapter. And you can do that now. Like you can do that with like online patches and everything. So if they released a game, people really hated this one gym or something like that, they could theoretically patch that gym to be different while also adding new content and new mechanics if they really wanted to. So I don't see a problem with that approach, and I like not having to start the adventure from scratch. Because like say they released the next Pokemon, like they released like an upgraded version of Pokemon Sword and Shield this coming year, like say that's like one of the big announcements whenever Pokemon Day rolls around later this month. They have to, like, I would have to start all the way back at like the hometown and like going through and like helping that Wooloo who's like rolling into like I don't want to do that. Like I want to keep playing. I want to keep like building my collection, and like yeah, it's a good approach for a game that's all about collecting and building like bonds with the characters that you're gathering. And yeah, I think that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, and it's weird, like like you said, the whole being cuffed thing. I think the whole bringing back national decks, crowd, that echo chamber is a prime example of that, because people were upset about that. And they're like, oh, DLC, oh, they just want more money for an incomplete game. And then when you step back and think about it, you're like, this is the structure games have always existed in. Pokemon just didn't exist in that structure. And it's like you said, these are actually improvements that it needs, because these are just how you do things in today's world. But you said, again, people are cuffed to that nostalgia of this is how they've always done it. And, it gets to a point where, like, you got to do more than that,
I was at PAX, I guess it was called PAX Prime at that point, 2013, whenever X and Y was coming out. And I played X and Y at like the Nintendo demo station, and I asked the demoer, I'm like, how do you like sell a game like this to somebody who, they started playing like Red and Blue, and then like when the new monsters came in, like they felt intimidated and didn't want to continue on, because like I feel like that's a common thing, is like eventually like there's so many Pokemon that like you don't want to learn all of them, so you just kind of like give up, because like it's intimidating to jump into a new adventure with 200 new creatures to get to learn on top of the ones you've already memorized. And basically, and I'm sure this is not like an official Nintendo stance or statement or anything like that, but the guy basically told me like, yeah, you just got to get over it. And I love that, because like that's true. And like that, X and Y is, I think, a perfect entry point into the series, like, or a re-entry point. Like if you did fall off at some point along the line. Like full disclosure, I have never played Diamond. I've never played Black White. I bought Black White day one, and then I never played it because like I got like, I don't know, I didn't like the character designs, I didn't like the starters, I didn't like any of it really. And so I got back into it after that hiatus with X and Y, and like I was like head over heels back in love with the game, the series, and that just carried on Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, and so on. But yeah, that is a good way to put it, is just get over it. But I think that XY is a great entry point or re-entry point, and I think that the Let's Go games are the same thing, and as is Sword and Shield. I think Sword and Shield is a perfect place to re-enter the franchise. So any of those 3 points, if you did fall off at any point in like the past, I think those 3 areas are kind of the ways to go.
And I will say they stay true to their promise. They were like, this will be the first Pokemon game to where it will be the easiest to get into competitive battling, but we will not, lessen its importance or impact. And I was like, they really stay true to that. Like, me as someone who competitive battles all the time, I didn't feel like, oh, they made it too easy. But the way they made it more accessible was smart and didn't destroy the balance of the game in any way. It's like, you can now invest your time into other things that aren't breeding. But even those other things like, oh, I want to make a perfect Pokemon. We're going to need a lot of money, a lot of materials, and a lot of time in a different way. And, and it's not so easy to where, oh, you can just do that endlessly. Like, you would eventually run out of money, run out of the stuff you need to make all the things. And I was like, yeah. And then for me, it's like, since I know like the hard way, I'll be like, oh, crap, I need a new Pokemon. Oh, this is kind of perfect. All right. Let me just give it, a mint. Here's, this, get the build I want, and it's good to go in like 30 minutes. So I was like, all right, that's cool. Maybe I didn't need to spend 3 hours of breeding to get to this point.
Yeah. And I think that, like, giving you the option to do it, but not making it a necessity is really smart. And I think that, like, people give Game Freak a lot of crap about like Sword and Shield, and there are some things that I don't like about Sword and Shield for sure, but I think overall it's a very good like first attempt at an all new console RPG. Like the staff basically doubled in terms of like the size and to like make all of the assets for it and everything. So they're it's going to be interesting to see where the series goes from here. I'm hoping that like they took the good lessons and move forward and carry forward into whatever comes next.
Oh yeah, my fingers are definitely crossed for Gen 9. I definitely love Sword and Shield more than I disliked it. Honestly, this may be a hot take. People don't like this when I say this, but I was like, where was the hate for Sun and Moon? Because I will die on the hill that that's probably one of the worst games in the whole library of core games. That's just me, though.
I like Sun and Moon, and I like that it tried new things. Like getting rid of like traditional gym battles was really cool. But some of the structural stuff I was not a big fan of, and some of the Pokemon designs I was not the biggest fan of either. But overall, I think it was a good game.
Yeah, because we gotta wrap it up. This is gonna be a topic for another day. But my thing is, remember how you were talking about how Platinum, how it was slow and low? It didn't take forever, but my God, I swear there was like 100 hours of not needed dialogue in Sun and Moon. It would be like new area. This happened, and I'm like 10 minutes in. I'm like, bro, I haven't walked anywhere. Just stuff has been happening that really is not adding to my experience. Like, and that was my experience with Sun and Moon. It was just like, and just on a personal note, the biomes in Sun and Moon felt so random. Like, here you're on an island, and here's just the areas we needed. It doesn't like make sense with the ecology in the other islands, but whatever, we needed these areas. So I was just telling people, for all you people who were on that bringing back national decks, I want to hear your Sun and Moon opinion, because in my personal opinion, Sword and Shield outshines Sun and Moon like all day, every day. But I digress. Wow. I digress.
But Sword and Shield was also a much more traditional experience, which I did like. For all the talk that I have about being handcuffed to the past, like I think that the 8 gym format still works extraordinarily well, followed up by normally what is the Elite Four, but in this case was just like kind of like the challenging of like in the tournament at the end, in the Pokemon League type of thing. Like I think that was or whatever they call it, the Galar League,
Galar Cup or something like that. I don't know.
I forget what it was called. It's been a year and a half since I played that game, unfortunately, because I reviewed it for us. So I played it prior to launch, and aside from the expansions, I haven't really looked back. But yeah, I think that Leon was a really cool character. I think that was a great kind of final boss to look forward to.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the structure because it was kind of like the fact that the whole region, it's so big and it's such like the whole soccer sports theme of it. Like the gym leaders are like celebrity athletes and all that. That to me was like taking a classic formula and remixing it in such a way where it still felt new and fresh. I was like, I like this.
I loved having the crowd like kind of reacting to the stuff that was happening. I would like that to be more reactive, actually. Like I would love like the crowd to like lose its mind or like chant like the Pokemon's name that you just threw out. Like, you know, like you throw out your Charizard, they're chanting Charizard. Like that would be cool.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be cool. Or like, you know, since the gym leaders are popular athletes, like, you know, they're down to their last Pokemon, you know, they're like, Leon, you know, you know, just, you know, trying to, you know, even if it was like, you know, like clearly this couldn't work in competitive play, but like online play, like, oh, the crowd is on your side, you know, Charizard special attack went up, like.
That's cool, yeah.
Or like, you know, or like they're rooting against you and your Pokemon speed lowers, or, you know, just something crazy like that will be a fun in-game thing to experience.
Like accuracy, because they're like distracted by how loud the crowd is.
Yeah. And then, you know, you get your own, you know what, I'm going to stop because we are out of time, people. We are pushing, you know, an hour and a half here, you know, so I'm just going to stop. I'm going to thank you, Pokemon Master Brian, for joining me once again.
By the way, is a very appropriate thing for me to like Pokemon, because my birthday is Pokemon Day.
Oh.
February 27th, you know, almost a decade earlier, but I share a birthday with Pokemon, which is kind of cool. Like I was at a demo one time in San Francisco for Pokemon Sword and Shield, and it asked me for my birthday. So I typed in February 27th, and the demoer was like, "Oh, that's clever, Pokemon Day." And I'm like, "Nope, that's my actual birthday." He was like, "What?" It's like, that's incredible.
It was meant to be. Well, Pokemon Master Brian, for all the people, you know, who want to get to know you more, see your work, where can they follow you, see what you're doing, and all that good stuff?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Brian P. Shea. That's SHEA. And then follow us at Game Informer on Twitter and Facebook. And then Game Informer Magazine on Instagram. We do all kinds of cool stuff like news anniversaries. When there are events happening in the world, we show you like behind the scenes at events, shots around our office, inside our world famous vault. So yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff to find there. That's at Game Informer Magazine on Instagram. And then, you know, GameInformer.com for all the daily news, reviews, previews, features, interviews, all that good stuff. And then, you know, subscribe to Game Informer Magazine, both, or you can do physical or digital. So if you like getting your magazines in the mail, you can do that, or you can do digital, and it gets just, you know, directly to your tablet, your phone, or your desktop.
Well, all right. Make sure y'all go do that. As a interim alumni, support everything that Game Informer does. So make sure y'all do that. And as always, you can find me at Harmon Jr. on all your favorite social media. Doesn't matter which one, handle is the same. And like, share, subscribe. But if you really want to support, you know, with some money, there's a Patreon, Full Circle Productions. I like to thank the Patreons, Gabriel Garcia, Bake Rice, Ryan Frazier, and all the others. Thank y'all for joining me. Hey, I've already warned you, this month, it's Pokemon month, 25th anniversary. So if you love this episode, you're going to love the next three. If you didn't, well, listen to them anyway. As always, everyone, have a great week and be blessed.